Mindshift Power Pod.
This is Mindshift Power Podcast, the #1 critically acclaimed podcast where we have raw, unfiltered conversations that shape tomorrow. I'm your host, Fatima Bey The MindShifter. And welcome, everyone. Today we have with us Cory Corpodian. He is out of California in the USA. He is an entrepreneur and host of Unleashed Success. How are you doing today, Cory?
Great. Excited to be on the show.
I'm glad to have you here, and I'm glad to have this conversation with you in particular. So, Cory, tell us, why are you here and what do you do?
So I host a podcast called Unleashed Success, which helps entrepreneurs build and scale their businesses as well as communicate effectively. I'm also the author of Emotional Fitness, which helps us understand how emotions create signals for us to act, how we can use emotions instead of letting them control us, and ultimately helping us accomplish our goals and achieve the life of our dreams. I'm here because I'd like to be able to share with you and your audience more about how, using simple exercises every single day, we can start to create small moments where we can change our mental and emotional fitness for the better so that we can accomplish our goals. And then those small moments can build into habits and ultimately change who you are to become who you want to be.
Why small moments?
Because everything starts in a moment, right? In a single moment, you want to make a decision to change your life. In a single moment, you say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym today. In a single moment, you say, hey, I'm going to start a business. In a single moment, you say, no, I'm not going to go over there where I know there's trouble. In a single moment, you can change your entire life.
That is so absolutely true. We're going to talk about that and how it relates to teenagers and young adults today. So I want to talk about something that you talk about quite a bit on in your talks, and it's on your website as well. I want to talk about accidental branding. So what most teens don't realize is they already have a brand. Every post, every pic. Do you think that teenagers realize that they're developing a brand right now?
You know, I don't think that people realize how much social media means to the outside world because especially young kids these days and teens, you all grew up with social media in your pocket from day one. You've been recording,
Right.
taking pictures, posting them online, but each individual post says something about you. And if you're not curating that, if you're not doing that intentionally, it might say something that you don't want the world to know. It might say something that you don't really want when you're in your 20s going to college or going to get a job, where somebody might see this post from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and say, hey, this isn't the type of person we want. And we all make mistakes. We all do silly, stupid stuff as kids. And when you're doing that, you might not realize that it has ramifications. So I always say you want to think 2 steps ahead. You might have done something that was really cool looking, a great photo, and you want to post it. But think what happens after you post it. Who's going to see it? Who might have access to this? And how would it affect you later on in life? After just this moment. I know you want the likes. I know you want the attention. I know you want to show your friends just because, hey, you want to share what's going on in your life. I get that.
Right.
But sometimes, that post might not look good on a college admissions resume because nowadays employers, colleges, they look at your social media presence.
Even if it's set to private. That doesn't really mean a whole lot. Can you give us some examples, some modern examples of where that has happened?
I mean, you see all the time where people, I think just yesterday, Jimmy Kimmel was fired for what he said about Charlie Kirk. That was on, I mean, instantaneously. This is something, he's obviously a television person, but there are all the time where people, they make bad decisions in a public forum, and he got fired for it, right? Now, I'm not here to argue one way or the other as far as what should have been right for him, but that's a prime example that just happened, that there are consequences to our actions. And so if you post a picture, maybe, it's a video of kids doing something illegal. I saw this post about Airbnb. They had a party at the Airbnb. These kids are filming themselves destroying the house, thinking it's funny and sharing this. Well, all of a sudden, what was fun and games now becomes a documented video used in court to put you in jail because you've destroyed property.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Unfortunately, there are real consequences to what we do, right? And if you're not aware of that and you're involved, even if, get this, you're the one filming it, but you weren't damaging anything. You're in the video, but you weren't damaging anything. You're an accomplice. And unfortunately, then you're part of the problem. And so these are reasons why you've got to be careful with what you put on. You've got to be careful what you let other people put on. And really, you can avoid all this sometimes by just avoiding these types of situations. You can avoid this by, like being true to yourself, being true to your own character, right? Sometimes we get caught up in the hype. We want to be part of what everybody else is doing, but sometimes following the crowd can lead you in the wrong direction.
Right. Does that mean that you need to be perfect online and only show your absolute best all the time?
No. And the truth is, one thing I love about podcasts is that I get very real and I'm very honest with people. And I think that's why I connect with people online. I don't love the fact that, Instagram and TikTok are just these curated, perfect dance moves, perfect pictures, perfect videos.
Mm-hmm.
And while that is building a brand and that's part of it, you've got to realize that most of these people that, just because it looks like they're happy and they're traveling and they're going to all these places and it looks like they have money, it's a lot of times fake. Or
Right.
if it's real, it's a moment in time. I have happy moments all the time. And if all I post that, which I get, you want to post the happy moments. The thing is that that's not my entire life. That is only a moment in time. So what you're seeing is the best of my life, not the worst. And the truth is, all of us, even me, I've had several $1 million businesses. I've had, a lot of success in my life in real estate investing, in podcasting, in helping youth and speaking to people on different forums and stages, from companies that have done millions of dollars to the U.S. Marines. Even after doing all that, I still have bad days. But it's what you do when you have those bad days and how you train your mind and your emotions that determines the trajectory of your entire life. And it starts with one day. So, when I talk about emotional fitness, it's what can I do right now today? And I love you'll hear me talk about this a lot, but I love doing a power action list. If you've got a goal, you want to write down the top 3 things that you need to accomplish to move the needle. Because I believe in the Pareto principle. So Pareto was this, this guy who lived out in, I think it was Italy, and he found that 80% of the people, 80% of the homes that were owned by 20% of the people. So what it is essentially, it applies to everything in life. You tend to wear 80% of the time, you wear 20% of your clothes. Right? You got 80% of clothes sitting in a closet you never wear. Well, also, 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So write down your top 3 actions that are going to move the needle. And if you accomplish those this week, you're going to be further ahead. If you accomplish those today, you're going to be further ahead. Don't get caught in the minutia of life and the distractions, right? Focus on taking action.
And you know what? That ties right into owning your own brand, because what you just said is a piece of it. So when we talk about owning your own brand, because, like we were just saying, a lot of teens don't realize that they've actually already started building their brand, basically how the world is perceiving you, which can affect jobs and money in the future. How do they move from accidental to intentional? And you just mentioned what step 1 really is. What's the next step?
I think, look, one, you start off with being true to yourself, but if you've got an online presence right now, you want to take a look at what you've been posting, what you've been sharing, right? Because everybody is able to see all of that. Even if you're private, people, your friends, they're able to see it. So you want to go and kind of curate that. Like, hey, is this really who I am? Is this really what I want to be known for? Is this really what I'm about? And if it doesn't serve you anymore, if it doesn't meet your needs, take it down. Just delete it. Delete that post off. But moving forward, realize that you should post your real life. You should post good things. You should post things that you want to post. just know that if you're posting something that might be mistaken for or misunderstood, right? Even misunderstood, maybe, it's not the right thing to post. Maybe you could just share it with your friends. You don't have to post everything. So moving from accidental to intentional, you want to curate it. It's not that your life has to be perfect. It's just you want to say, hey, is this thinking 2 steps ahead again? Is this something that might cause a problem later on with my life? And if the answer is a maybe even,
Yes.
don't post it. You don't need to
Yeah.
post it.
So how can they be a little more intentional with what they are posting?
So look, I mean, building a brand and being something, becoming something, right? You're talking about building a brand accidentally. And obviously I've built brands intentionally, right? We didn't have social media
Right.
until I was much older. I didn't grow up with it since a young kid. I had it when, high school, college. So when I look at how to build branding, I created a map for myself. And I believe every person should have this, right? You need to know, who are you? And right now you might be discovering who you are, and that's okay too. But what do you like? What do you dislike? What are your values? Do you value family, loyalty, love? Do you not like people who are going to take energy away from you? You want people who bring energy to you, right? People are going to be a bad influence on you. So you want to move away from those, move towards people that maybe you like sports, maybe you like games. All right, cool. That's something that's important to you. So you build out your values. You say kindness, courage, friendship, loyalty, love, success, happiness. These are things that I want to focus on in my life. And I don't think anybody at a young age really does that. I do that twice a year now, where I rewrite my values. I want to make sure I'm living by those values. So when you create this life for yourself of like what you want to accomplish, how you want to live, I got a sister who's 11 years younger than me, and she really grew up in social media age. And I just, she was kind of an old soul, but I just remember, at a young age, she would try to do things, but she always told me, and she lives this. I just said this at her wedding speech, which was beautiful. It's just how much she cares about her friends. This is amazing. My sister took the time to write a note to every single wedding guest about why they were special to her in her life. And
wow.
That to me,
I love that.
Yeah, it was just another way of her saying, but she said this since she was a young kid. She valued her friendships, and she took the time and energy and effort to put love and energy into those friendships. What do you value? Do you value, playing on your sports team at school? Do you value your friendships? Do you value, time with your family? Do you value, maybe you're a young entrepreneur and you want to make some money? Do you value trying to build a business? Maybe you're, putting up a lemonade stand or selling stuff online or doing Pokemon cards. Whatever it is for you, write down these values. And then write down things that you don't want to be. Like, I don't want to be a troublemaker. I don't want to be someone who, isn't true to their word, right? Like, I'm very committed, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it, right? And there's power in doing that and completing it, being disciplined, right? I know it's hard, but when I say I'm going to do something, I finish it and I do it because I've built a life based on that. And every time I do that, good things happen. So if you want to create discipline in your life, it can start off with something small. It can start off with just waking up at the same time every day, 6 a.m., 6:30. Maybe you make your bed, right? Super simple, but it teaches you something. That's why they teach it to Marines and people in the military, how to make your bed and how to wear your uniform, and everything is perfect to a T. Because when you start doing these little things, they bleed into the rest of your life. And now you start creating habits that change who you are, and you become a person who, when you say you're going to do something, people know and they can depend on you. So you want to move away from things you don't want to be and move towards things you do want to be. Now, when you go to do something online and you're building your brand, even if you don't realize it, when you go to do a post, all you got to do is ask yourself a simple question, because now you've done the work. You can ask one simple question. Is this post aligned with my values or is it not? There's a gym influencer called Joey Swoll. And Joey is very well known online for taking videos of people who posted something inappropriate for likes and attention and basically calling them out and saying, hey, you need to do better. And I love this. He started doing this a couple of years ago. So people will post a selfie in the gym, a guy, and there'll be an old man with his pants literally down. And he'll come over and say, hey, you shouldn't be filming in here. You shouldn't be recording or taking pictures. Literally, there's a sign that says no cameras in the locker room. And this guy's posts this online for likes and attention. And dude, clearly you didn't need to do that. Or, sometimes he'll even talk about women who try to signal out guys who, they slow down the video where the guy barely glances over and like, oh, look at this creep looking at me. And it's like, the guy looked in your direction for a millisecond. You got to slow it down. And I'm not saying that stuff like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I'm just saying that people will post it with malintent to get likes and attention. And so when you go to post something, you have to look, what were your values? Does this align with your values? Does this align with who you want to be? And again, last thing, remember 2 steps ahead. 1 step, post. I get likes, I get attention, I share with my friends. Maybe it's something funny. We all get a good laugh. But what's that second thing? Maybe this hurts somebody else's feelings. Maybe this won't look good towards my character. Maybe this isn't aligned to my values, and maybe it will impact my ability for college, job, or future.
I want to point out something that you said a moment ago that doesn't fall in line with, that doesn't really necessarily always relate to social media. You said keeping your word is very important to you. And that is a very, 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 very big deal. And that I think a lot of people, not just teens, but even some adults don't realize is absolutely key in how people perceive you. If you build a reputation, which is what your brand is, if you build a reputation of keeping your word, you become a much more trustworthy person that opportunities may come to you that you weren't looking for. When you are a person that does not keep your word, does not consider keeping your word important, I don't mean that you're not perfect. I don't mean that you're perfect and stuff happens, because stuff can happen that you might not be able to fulfill a promise. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when people have absolutely no care or concern whether or not they keep their word. We all see that too, and you will lose opportunities you never knew might have been because of it. So I love, Cory, that you said that. You said that that's one of your values, but I think that it should be a value that we all look at.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk about something else that you talk about a lot, which is, reinventing yourself. And a lot of people think this only applies to adults. But I want you to tell youth how this applies to them. So you've rebuilt yourself. What can a young person learn about starting over, even as a teenager, even as a young adult?
Look, I was a kid once too, right? So when I was younger, I moved around a lot. And I went to, 3 different third grades, 5 different high schools in total, 4 in 1 year, 3 states. I moved around probably 40 times before I actually was 18 years old. When you go to a new place, you have this opportunity to reinvent yourself a lot. So I learned very early on that I could be who I wanted to be, but it's awkward. You got to meet new people and make new friends. I think one of the things about reinventing yourself is this idea that we can't be who we want to be. Or, if you've got friends, like this is something that you've got friends, we are who we surround ourselves with. But sometimes, and I've reinvented myself many times over the years, but sometimes like from high school, I had really good friends that, I had big goals and big dreams. They didn't share those big goals and big dreams. Not that they were bad people, not that we didn't have fun together,
Right.
not that I didn't like them anymore, but I was chasing these big goals and dreams. And the more I chased them, the further away we drifted apart. Because when we go to hang out, what are we talking about? Honestly, like I care more about this stuff. You want to talk about this? Let's talk about it. Like this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm working on. We just grew apart. And that's okay. So one thing about reinventing yourself is realizing who you surround yourself with, right? Because I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've got goals. You want to do something positive with your life. You want to be better. Maybe you want to be a leader. Maybe you want to go to college. Maybe you want to change the world and invent rocket ships or something crazy. Whatever it is, I support it. But you need to surround yourself with people that are like-minded. And that might mean letting go of some of your friendships that you currently have. Not because they're bad people, not because they don't mean anything to you, but because they're not moving in the same direction as you. That helps, especially at this young age. I talked already about values and telling yourself what you want, what you don't want. I think that's super important and very easy to do in an hour, right? Just ask yourself that question. Do I really want this? Do I want that? What do I value in life? Do that, look at your circle, and then it starts with daily habits. What are
Yes.
3 things the new you is going to do? I remember when I've always been working out since I was a young kid because I played sports and I was a small kid, so I had to be strong and fast, and that was the only way I was going to be able to play sports and outwork everybody. That's one thing. I always want to outwork everybody because they were bigger, stronger, faster. I'm not going to be that. I'm never going to be it. So I have to be better at working. I have to work harder than everybody else. What do you want to do in your life, right? So you got to say, okay, I'm going to say this is something that's important to me. I'm going to look at my friendships and then I'm going to write down my goals about who I want to be, right? I write down a goal. And this is something that could be a 1-month goal, a 6-month goal, a year goal. In fact, I like to write those down because if it's 5 years away, it's too far away, right? Our minds you got to bring it to now to make it feel real.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is something you're going to do you're going to accomplish in 1 month that's going to get you closer to that 6-month goal? And what are you going to do every single day? So if you're trying to learn a new sport, right? Like, or if you're trying to learn a new instrument, are you going to practice for an hour a day? I remember when I was in high school and I was playing basketball and football at the time. And between my sophomore and junior year, my shot was not that good, right? So I was starting point guard. I would, play the whole game. I'd always score between 10 and 14 points a game. A lot of layups, a lot of free throws. I could not hit the jumper, right? I'd always miss it. I just didn't have the flow. So between sophomore and junior year, I'll never forget, for 2 weeks straight, I was like, I'm going to shoot 1,000 shots. It was so many shots. And what happened was after 2 weeks of doing this, because I had the mechanics, I had the fundamentals, but there was something missing, something that didn't click. After 2 weeks of doing this, my shot clicked finally, right? And of course, I still continued to practice, but I had a 2-week break where I was doing absolutely nothing. And I said, I'm going to commit 100% to this and I'm going to go all in. And I shot from everywhere, right? I shot from 2 feet away, 4 feet away, 6 feet away, 8 feet away, from the free throw line, all around the key, all around the 3-point line. Now, all of a sudden, when I went back to playing, I was scoring 25 to 30 points a game. It completely opened up the game for me. Well, because now I could shoot the 3. And now when I shoot the 3, they've got to actually try and stop me from shooting the 3, or else it's an easy 3 points, which opens up the lane, which means I scored more points. And it wasn't a fluke either. I did it the whole season. It was incredible. But that's the power of doing something consistently, right? It was a choice I made to make a change. I did it every day. And what are you going to do every day? Are you going to spend an hour practicing the violin? Are you going to spend an hour reading a book? Are you going to spend an hour every single day working out? Are you going to spend an hour practicing your lines for, theater or whatever it is for you? Spend an hour a day focused on it, working hard at it. And one thing about commitment and discipline, I love that. If you can stay committed and disciplined, you're going to accomplish a lot of things in life. But I think the difference between people who don't accomplish more than they want to is intensity. If I spend an hour talking to you about, oh, well, I kind of do this and I don't use specific examples. And, I meander through the gym for an hour and I kind of walk. I'm not working out, right?
Right.
You want to do it intensely.
Yeah, good example.
So when you go in there, like if I'm going to the gym, I want to hit it. Granted, I don't, every day, we all have bad days, like I said, but consistently, you want to go in there, I want to break a sweat, in the first 15 minutes, and I want to work hard, and I want to feel exhausted and tired at the end of it so that the hour I spent there was worth it. So when you go to practice an instrument or practice a sport or work on reading a book, like don't get distracted, when you're doing it. If you're reading a book, oh, my phone's buzzing. Let me text this. You only read 3 pages in an hour. That's not going to get you anywhere. Okay. So you've got to make sure you're practicing, you're spending an hour intensely working out towards your goals.
That was very well said. I want to piggyback off of something you just said right now, because I'm thinking about the listeners and the realities that a lot of people deal with. So let's say I'm a young man, I'm 16, my name is Bart. I'm just going to make up a name right now. So I'm Bart. and I'm trying to reinvent myself. I've always been a goofball that no one can take seriously. But now I really want to get serious about where my life is headed. But everybody keeps trying to trap me into the goofy guy, the goofball. And every time I say something serious, they're like, oh, Bart, shut up. How do I retrain the people around me to take me seriously as I'm trying to reinvent myself?
Such a great question. And the truth is, you're not going to retrain people around you. They're going to change when you do. And it's going to take time. The problem is that especially your family who you've grown up with your whole life, it's going to be really hard for them to see your change, especially over time.
Yeah.
But if you stay consistent, it will happen. Sometimes though, family, they're always going to remind you about that stuff. And because of your family, you got to love them. You just got to let it go. Now, we talked about friendships. Some of your friends are going to always be like that. They're going to be holding you back.
Yes.
And sometimes, as much as you love those friends, you just got to let them go because you're going in a different direction now. You've made a decision. You've committed to it. You've taken actions. You're switching who you are to become a driven, confident person, not somebody who's just the goofball. And I will say this too, don't be so hard on yourself, right? Change happens in an instant when you make the decision, but for everybody else to notice it, it takes time. In the first 30 days of working out, you're going to notice a lot of changes. In 60 days, maybe your family might notice things. If you're consistent with anything, working out, changing your tone, changing who you are, your personality, practicing a sport, in 90 days, people are going to start to notice, right? So it's that consistency over time. So don't be too hard on yourself. It's not going to happen right away, but when you're consistent over time, that's when real change will happen.
And that's the one big principle I hear out of everything you're saying. If you want real change, adult or teen, really, if you want real change, small individual changes consistently over time is what will do it. Not magical 1, 2, 3 steps, not psychic going, I have powers over you now, and all the other magical crap that people try to sell us. That's the root of
Fatima,
what we need
I do
to
want
if we
to
really
just
want that
jump in
change.
real quick because I want to say one thing though. There is power in your decision-making process. When you listen to this podcast and you want to make a change, if you're sitting there, what's one decision you can make right now? What is one thing you can say, I'm going to become this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the gym every single day for the next 30 days and commit to it. I'm going to never be the goofball again because that's not who I really am. And I want to be seen as the confident, driven person that I know I am. Or whatever it is, like, you want to start a business, you want to go to college, you want to, join the next sports team, you want to join debate, whatever it is, you start with a powerful decision that says, I am this, I am going to do this, I see myself doing this. There is so much power in writing that down. In fact, people are 40% more likely to accomplish their goals when they physically write it down. And I know we got cell phones, but really take pen or pencil to paper. I'd like pen. It's permanent. You write that down. There's something, at least for me, about writing it down on paper that makes it more real and you're more likely to accomplish it when you write down the goals. I mean, studies have shown that, like I said, 40%. So as much as it is small, consistent moments, and that really is going to be the key to success, you've got to make that decision, and that happens in a single moment that you can do right now.
Well, I was going to ask you what advice you have for youth in the world, but you already gave it. So you really did. So I don't even want you to say anything on top of that because I think what you just said was powerful. So tell the audience, you have a book that you've written. Can you tell us about it and how we can find you?
Yeah, it's called Emotional Fitness, and it's about not letting your emotions control you and instead controlling your emotions so you can accomplish your goals and live the life of your dreams. What that's about is emotions are signals to our brain. They're telling us to move away from something or move towards it, right? If you're afraid of something, that's the emotion of fear is really designed to keep you alive. The emotion of love is designed to give you connection and community. These emotions are signals to our brain. If you are overridden by anger and fear or anxiety, it means you're not aware of what is causing that signal to happen. And it creates a story inside your life and in your brain. My goal with Emotional Fitness was to help people become aware of their emotions, how to use them to accomplish their goals, and change the way we perceive the world. Because when you're focusing on something, you can either choose to focus on what's right or what's wrong. And then when you focus on something, you create a meaning around it. Like, that's good for me, that's bad for me. And then you react to what's happening. You move away from a scary situation, or you move towards something because you want to protect the people you love behind you. You take an action. And understanding how we process the world internally allows you to master your internal world, master your mindset, lead yourself so that you can now lead other people and start to make real changes that are seen in the outside world.
I love that. So where can people find you?
So at Cory Corpodian on YouTube or Instagram. Also, if you want to pick up the book, masteremotionalfitness.com. And if you want to subscribe to Unleash Success, you go to unleashsuccess.com/subscribe, where I interview entrepreneurs about business, scaling their businesses, and leaders who talk about mindset and how to become better and how to become a better leader and what it takes to be successful in life.
And I want to add, I have a lot of guests on here and I meet a lot of other podcasters. I don't subscribe to too many of them, but I actually subscribe to Unleash Success because I found value in what he said. And one thing I like about you, Cory, is that you speak plain English. You're not trying to impress everybody. You're like me. You'd rather be impactful than impressive. And that's the vibe I get from you. And I love that. I really hate it when people talk over 80% of the population so that they can just sound good, but so what? I like that you actually have things to say that are good. And especially as someone who is an entrepreneur and building an empire, and I really am outside of this, I love to hear content that's going to help me along that way. And I feel like your podcast actually does that. So I can, with honesty, say, follow this podcast because I am. Well, thank you, Cory, so much for coming on today. I really appreciate this. There's a lot more conversation we could have, but we don't have 17 years. So, but I really thank you for coming on today. It's been really wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
And now for a mind-shifting moment. Today we talked about your personal brand and what that means. But I want to take you to take a deeper dive. I don't care how old you are. This is for everyone. What do you see when you look in the mirror? And I'm not talking about your physical state. How do you represent yourself? Because your brand is how you represent yourself. Essentially, what your reputation is, what you're known for. When you look in the mirror, when you look at your quote-unquote brand and how you are viewed and how you are presented before the world, does it really match who you see in the mirror? Does it really match you? Because before you can start making those intentional steps to bridge that gap, you need to first look at the gap. Are you representing the real you? Because I'll tell you what, if the answer is no, that means that you have now presented an actress or an actor, and you have an entire movie of lines you need to live up to. That is a lot of work. It's actually less work to be yourself. Make sure that what you put out there actually represents the real you. You've been listening to Mind Shift Power Podcast. For complete show notes on this episode and to join our global movement, find us at fatimabey.com. Until next time, always remember, there's power in shifting your thinking.
Oh.